Don't worry, you have your whole life ahead of you. It's a common phrase that a lot of young people hear. Young people like Anna, a 14-year-old schoolgirl living in Ireland in 2018. No one could have predicted the horrifying events that would take place on an ordinary day after school in May. This is Anna's story. Deadly Deep Dives. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kimbyrleigha. If you've never been here before, nice to finally meet you. I've been starting to do some short true crime TikTok videos, and this case was all over TikTok, but of course, those videos are only 1 minute or 3 minutes on average, and I couldn't help but want to know way more details, and that's why I chose to do this case in a much more detailed version. If any of my short videos on TikTok have a lot of interest, I will definitely consider doing more extended versions here on YouTube. And this is my very first case out of Ireland, but before I get into it, let's thank our sponsor for today. You know how I love to go into every little detail that I can find in my videos, especially my deep dives? I know a lot of you love that. So you may be as obsessed with facts as I am, and that's what made me interested in partnering with our sponsor for today, and that is Blinkist. This is a really cool app that enables you to understand the most important facts from over 5,500 nonfiction books and podcasts in record time. Only about 15 minutes, and I love that. Many of you are like me and are strapped for time. And Blinkist is all about giving you bite-sized portions of popular books like this one I just listened to called Stop Overthinking. This is 23 techniques to relieve stress, stop negative spirals, declutter your mind, and focus on the present. And who doesn't need that? I know I do.
Overthinking isn't about thinking too much. It's about being stuck in a loop of thoughts.
And when you listen on Blinkist, guess what? You can go on the Blinkist app and read what they call blinks or listen to blinks. I like to listen, and you can even listen faster by increasing the speed. And not only that, you can click this little idea button at the top. It's the light bulb icon, and you will jump to the key ideas of the book at a glance. It's what my generation called Cliff Notes, and I need this more than ever. There are times when I can use some inspiration or encouragement, but the task of listening or reading an entire book seems so daunting, so I skip it altogether, which means I need even more uplifting, and that's why I love Blinkist so much. I'm in the middle of moving with my boyfriend right now and out of my house, and moving can be so stressful. I've been listening to titles from Blinkist while moving boxes, unpacking things, packing things, or just taking a break between organizing. I have been more tired than ever if you can't tell, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably know some of the reasons why. Blinkist helps. I can explore topics like motivation and inspiration like I've been doing lately, and then browse through all the newest titles, the popular section, or different collections. Another favorite of mine is Outliers. I've already read this book a few times, and Blinkist helps supplement what I've already read. It's great when I want to revisit what the book was all about. Find out for yourself by checking out Outliers and so many more titles on the Blinkist app. Just look in the description box below for a link, and you get 25% off Blinkist Premium and enjoy 2 memberships for the price of 1. And you can do this with Blinkist Connect. All you do is click the gift box at the top right corner of the app. So start your 7-day free trial by clicking that link, and once you find a cool title, you can share it with a friend. And as a matter of fact, every Blinkist premium plan can be shared by 2 different accounts at no additional cost. This allows you to invite a second account to join your plan. If they accept your invitation, the owner of the second account will get complete premium access to Blinkist. And not only that, you can create your own spaces in the spaces section where you can share titles that you love or that you want to get into with your friends. This is a really cool feature where you and your friends can recommend your favorite blinks, and anyone in your space can enjoy what's shared there. You can even invite people who aren't members of Blinkist, and that way you can get inspired together. If this sounds like something that you want to try, just go ahead, like I said, and look for that link in my description box. And do it now so that you can take advantage of that 25% off. I want to thank Blinkist for sponsoring this video. Now Let's get into the case for today. Like I said, this is my very first case out of Ireland, and it's fitting for March as this is the month of St. Patrick's Day. That's why my set is set up this way, and I saved it for this month in particular. This is the story of Anastasia Kriégel, and I can't wait to tell you about her because she was a very special little girl. Anastasia, who ended up going by the nickname Anna, was born just a few days after Valentine's Day on February 18th, 2004, all the way in Novokuznetsk, Russia. Sorry if I'm not saying that perfectly. It is located in Siberia. After her birth, her biological mother actually surrendered her to a Russian orphanage, where she stayed for the first 2.5 years of her life. Now, many of us have heard the word orphanage, and maybe if you're my age, you think back to Little Orphan Annie, the movie Annie, and what the conditions were like as depicted by Hollywood. But if you thought that those children were living the hard knock life, Russian orphanages have an even worse reputation. I think it is of the utmost importance to discuss this. Just briefly, during my research, I read numerous stories about children who lived in Russian orphanages around the same time that Anna did, and their stories brought tears to my eyes. One story I read was a little boy who was only 11 years old. His name was Zenya. And he went through what I could only describe as absolutely horrifying. After being adopted, he was raised in Buffalo, New York. And this is what he said when he was interviewed about his experience as a child. He said he had experienced and seen things that no child should ever be exposed to. Being emotionally scarred, it was difficult for him to discuss the early events of his childhood without getting upset. The fact that he couldn't even discuss some of the things he went through should tell you how bad they really were. These children, they feel isolated, abandoned, they go through fear and confusion, and that's at the least. It can be much worse than that. Many Russian orphanages are underfunded, they don't have enough staff members, and they're severely overpopulated with too many children for the staff to adequately care for. And the conditions are terrible. There's inadequate nutrition, insufficient emotional care, and many of these children are underdeveloped mentally and physically, and the longer they stay there, the worse off they are. Children are typically bathed together in ice cold water, by the way, because not a lot of places have available hot water in these facilities. And it's true that they actually do eat porridge, hardly ever getting meat or protein unless it's tiny scraps of chicken. And the children share beds, usually with old mattresses that are worn out and have been donated. And the mental stimulation is lacking because there's no extra funds for toys or other activities to develop their minds. I read all about this, and I also found an organization called Human Rights Watch. They continue to fight for the rights of individuals worldwide, and they're still reporting high numbers of neglect and physical trauma in Russian orphanages. And many times, children will try to escape, and they have a better chance surviving on the streets. This is just a snapshot of what life was like for little Anna. And we don't know everything she went through, but it's been said that she was left alone a lot while the staff tried to manage more unruly children because she was little, she was a baby. And in their minds, probably easier to take care of, but this resulted in Anna having a lack of social and emotional developmental skills at first. Now looking through a different lens for a moment. Life for a married couple, Geraldine and Patrick Kriégel, about 4,000 miles away in Ireland, was quite different. By 2006, they had been married for 20 years. They were soulmates, best friends, and a little older in age than the typical first-time parents, but that's what was missing, a family. They wanted a child so badly, and the adoption process was very long. It can take years, and the criteria is high. Parents must meet specific standards before they're allowed to adopt, especially outside of their country. And the adoption laws in Russia are very strict. They actually discourage foreign adoption, and they prefer children to be adopted domestically. For example, the foreign adoption agencies, they must go through all this accreditation process, and they have to be certified by Russia, or they can't do business there. Once a child does become available, it takes months before they can be even considered to be ready for adoption. And then there's a waiting period of between 5 months and a year, not to mention the fees. There are many fees included, and generally speaking, I have seen adoption fees, not including travel, upward of $25,000 to $35,000. The Kriégels lived in a safe home in a quiet country village, a leafy suburb called Leixlip, and this is in the northeast county of Kildare, Ireland. They had the resources, they had the means and the flexibility to care for a child. Patrick was originally from Paris, France. He taught commercial and business French language skills to students at the Dublin Institute of Technology, while Geraldine worked as a senior manager in the legal department of the state public transportation company. They both had successful careers, and after years of waiting for a child to call their own, they were informed that little Ana, only 2.5 years old, was available, and they could not wait to meet her. It was love at first sight. They flew all the way over to Ireland for their very first meetup, and the Kriégels couldn't wait to shower Ana with love. This was their dream, but they didn't want to get their hopes up. So they kept the adoption quiet until they were 100% certain it was going forward. And once everything was set up and they got Ana back to Ireland, they could not wait to tell their friends and family that they finally had a daughter. It was August 10th, 2006, the official adoption day, and a week later, Ana came home with them. Actually, to announce the good news, the excited parents gathered all of their family and friends together, and they gave them a little Russian nesting doll to open. These are traditional Russian toys and collectibles. If you've never seen them before, each wooden nesting doll opens up to reveal an even smaller one. Well, Patrick and Geraldine, they had a special surprise in their nesting dolls. The smallest of them revealed a picture of Ana inside. And as a matter of fact, Ana's new parents wanted her to appreciate her native culture. They believed Ana should know her entire story, and that's why they decided to keep her name, Anastasia. Ana's nationality played a significant role in the entire family's lives. Ana even found and maintained contact with her younger birth siblings as she got older. Not only did Geraldine and Patrick celebrate Ana's birthday, February 18th, but they continued to celebrate every year on August 10th, the day that they finalized her adoption. It was a big deal. Ana also had a younger brother, Aaron, and I'm sorry to say there wasn't a lot of information for me to ascertain whether he had also been adopted, but I assumed, since Patrick and Geraldine were a little older in age at the time, they probably did end up getting Aaron from possibly even the same orphanage. Although I don't know how old he was or how much later they adopted him or he was born. Nevertheless, family was the most important thing to the Kriégels. And their once quiet life as a couple turned into quite an adventure once Ana and Aaron came along. Ana was daddy's little girl and mommy's little princess. Here are some adorable pictures that I found of her and Patrick together. And of course, Ana and Geraldine. They wanted Ana to have everything that they could provide. And I can tell from these photos of her childhood that her family spent time loving on her, ice skating, skiing, eating at restaurants, painting, just spending quality time together. And Ana was just precious. Those big blue eyes, she had such innocence and wonder, and the family grew very close, spending time with extended family, especially her Aunt Jan and Ana's best friends. They were her cousins. Their names were Sab and Art, and they had so much fun together. The family spent each and every summer in Annecy, France to visit Patrick's side of the family, and they also had a home there. It's where Ana made a lot of friends. This was an annual tradition that Ana always looked forward to. She loved her father's homeland, and she was proud to be able to learn the French language as well. And every night, she would come into her parents' room, she would kiss them goodnight, and she would say in French, "Good night, sleep tight, have beautiful dreams, I love you." I told you Ana was a very special girl. But with all the positives in Ana's life, there were a lot of struggles that wouldn't be apparent from the outside looking in. While Ana was growing up, she faced several difficulties. Initially, it was the language barrier. Since she was only exposed to Russian for the first 2.5 years of her life, Ana struggled to learn English. And that's to be expected. It's typically easier for young children to learn a second language, but Ana faced obstacles due to her experience in the orphanage. Children's brains develop at a fast pace in those first 2 years of life, but nevertheless, the Kriégels did everything they could to help their daughter. And soon, she was assimilating just fine into her new home. But next, there were the attachment issues. And again, due to the neglect in the orphanage, Most of Anna's time there was spent in a crib. She wasn't cuddled. She wasn't shown love like a parent usually does with their children. And some children just lay in the crib all day long. Those nurturing relationships and positive learning experiences, coupled with proper nutrition and health, that's what gives babies a solid foundation for life. And Anna lacked these vital aspects. She missed out on that love and affection. But Geraldine and Patrick, they made up for that loss once she was in their care. They supported their daughter with whatever she needed. And one of the first significant struggles that Anna faced was medical in nature. She was in elementary school, and a doctor found a tumor in her right ear during a routine medical exam. And although the doctor said this could be removed, the 5.5-hour surgery left Anna almost deaf in her right ear, and she was partially blind in that right eye. But that didn't stop her. She even had supposedly a noticeable scar left behind, but her mother described her as wild, wonderful, electric, and full of fun, madness, and laughter. And I tried to look for the scar. I couldn't find any pictures that showed it. I did see a small one right by her eye, but I wasn't able to pinpoint where any of the others were. To my eyes, she was just flawless as can be. The scar was apparently on the back of her head, and she had another one under her chin due to a bad fall. But aside from the scars being cosmetic in nature, her hearing and vision problems, that did cause her to fall behind academically. Unfortunately, she also had short-term memory issues related to some of her ailments, which made it very difficult for her to remember terms that she had to learn in school. So it was hard for her to get ahead. During primary school, which in Ireland is all the way up through middle school, which means until 8th grade, her parents often met with her guidance counselor. She was put into special classes so that she could try to get on par with other students. And the counselor did have some concerns about Anna, considering she was getting a little later start academically, but she was doing really well considering everything that she had gone through. She was happy. The concerns were more about the future when she had to transition into high school, and I'm dealing with that right now with my 11-year-old. This is a time in these children's life when everything's changing. Hormones are changing. They're in an awkward stage. And the counselor was giving a warning that she thought Anna might have some trouble adjusting, primarily because of how sensitive her nature was. But there were other things as well. Anna had a very colorful personality. She could be a little loud, obnoxious, overly excited, and that's normal for many kids her age. However, she had a tendency to gravitate towards younger children. She was still interested in cartoons, for example, when a lot of other children were moving more toward sports. But the Kriégels were determined to make life comfortable and happy as possible for Anna. So they decided to put her in swimming, and she was very good at it. She was very athletic and growing at a much faster rate than most of the other kids her age, which made her in this more athletic side by nature. She also loved to dance and sing, and she decided to start dancing with a local dance troupe in the area where she met some of her closest friends. Anna would spend hours practicing her dancing in front of the mirror, and she would put on YouTube videos. She would look at the dance moves on YouTube, and her mom loved to watch her. It was one of her most fondest memories of Anna growing up. As her guidance counselor predicted, though, things weren't smooth sailing for Anna in secondary school. Before even getting there, when she was about to make the transition, she confided in one of her teachers that she didn't know if she wanted to live anymore. And that's really sad. She just kept saying she was excited because she imagined that maybe she was finally going to make some nice friends her own age. She craved friendship. She just wanted friends so badly. She wanted to belong. But once in secondary school, which goes from 9th grade until 12th, or from about the age of 12 to 15, and I know this can be a little confusing because I'm here in the US, and her school was called Comfy College. In the US, when you say college, that's after high school. But in this instance, Anna was going into what we would consider the 9th grade. Anna's school had over 700 students. Here's a picture from the website currently, and the kids definitely look way older. It's a transition period, for sure. And it was harder for her to make solid friendships. Everything was new. Kids came from different primary schools. You have to get to know everyone all over again. And with the dawn of social media, what's important isn't just about what's real. Now children have the added pressure of appearing cool online as well as in real life. Now it's how many followers do you have, not what sports do you play. And kids will find just about anything to bully other people about. Some of the things that set Ana apart, for one, was that she was adopted, and that shouldn't be a big deal. But when some of her schoolmates found out that Ana didn't have, quote, real parents, she was actually teased about that. They would call her parents fake, and that made her feel like she didn't have that genuine love and connection that other kids did with their families. I don't usually give my opinions in my videos. I try not to, but I can't help it in this case. I might here and there voice something because as a parent, I know we can't control our kids, but we can teach them. I feel like it could help to explain to our children that everyone is different and to allow them the chance to realize how hurtful it can be to criticize others for being different. They should never make it harder on anyone. You don't know their story. Be kind. Be remembered for the nice things you said and that you did for others, not the mean ones. And sadly, Ana was having a rough time. She just wanted to be friends with everyone so badly, but she turned inward. She felt rejected, and she began to spend even more time online, where she had profiles on a number of social media sites. By the time she was a teenager, she was on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and she had her own YouTube channel. YouTube was her absolute favorite. But as I'm sure you know, being online opens you up to a whole new world where anonymous people think it's their right to express any thoughts that they may have, and many times they aren't very nice. And you're lucky if you've never experienced online bullying. I have. I actually do on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and not all of us react the same way, and not all of us can handle it. Being so young and impressionable, many teens and preteens can take these comments to heart, and it can destroy them. Worse, it can lead to them deciding they don't want to be on this earth any longer. And as much as Ana loved social media, it brought her more heartache than joy. Soon, however, Ana would go through another struggle. All of a sudden, she started experiencing extreme emotional and physical pain from a growth spurt. And this is when she was around 13. She grew to 5'8". After conducting a few tests, doctors diagnosed her with Osgood-Schlatter disease, which causes swelling and irritation of the growth plate on the top of the shin bone. And in most cases, it fades away when a child stops growing. But the most common symptoms of this disease are pain and swelling of the knees. And it is usually associated with growth spurts in children between the ages of 9 and 14 years old, especially if they do sports or activities that involve a lot of running and jumping, which Ana did a lot of with dance. Now, there was another thing setting Ana apart from her peers, and I just told you about it. She towered over them. Many people, including her close friends, said that she looked like she was 18, not a mere 13-year-old. Being tall was looked at as odd. She's Siberian, so if she had been surrounded by other Siberian children in Russia, they may have been a lot similar, but she stood out in a crowd. And you'd think that would be a good thing. I used to dream of being taller, but as a kid, you stand out, and standing out is not always a good thing. She wanted to belong. She was taller than her father. Just think about it that way. I bet a lot of other kids looked more like kids. And not only that, she matured faster physically, and what I mean by that is her figure. She was filling out, her hips were filling out, her chest was filling out. And with boys going through puberty, you can probably imagine how that went. Teasing, some of that may be seen as normal, like boys will be boys, but it doesn't mean it's okay. And it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt people. And soon, there were a lot of sexual comments being made towards Ana, online and in real life. It was a lot for a young girl to deal with, especially with her new hobby, posting dancing videos on YouTube. And it wasn't long before Ana actually had over 100 subscribers, and that's actually a lot, especially back then. It's not easy. She was posting regularly, sometimes doing live streams, just chatting on her camera, and her YouTube channel still exists, but all of the videos have now been privated. However, I did find some screenshots from videos that she posted, and in one, she can be seen here wearing a red shirt with the word femme power on it, basically girl power, and her hair was still wet from the shower. There was a towel on her head. She was doing her makeup while she was chatting to her viewers. You can see her with her bright pink eyeshadow, her red lips. She looks really pretty. For the most part, People had kind words to say to Ana, but unfortunately, social media creators do open themselves up to criticism and ridicule. And some creators have thick skin. They can filter through the negative posts, but Ana was naive. She was 13 years old and she was sheltered. And the comments on these videos crushed her. She confided in her mom about what was going on. And it's hard when something you enjoy can bring you so much pain. I've been there. It's such a double-edged sword. Geraldine was very concerned. You know that times have changed. Many parents don't know how to navigate social media, and the issues that come with it can be very complicated. They don't want their child to feel alienated by taking away social media or their devices, so it's this back and forth delicate balance. If you take away these things and they're isolated and they're not allowed to experience life online with their classmates or group chats on text, they can be seen as an outcast and then they can be bullied more. Plus, it now seemed like Ana had more connections online than in real life. So Geraldine figured it was best not to remove social media from Ana's life, but instead she would monitor it, and that seems pretty reasonable. Every night, Ana had to turn her iPhone in and her tablet over to her mom and give her all the passwords so that she could log in. This is so that Geraldine would go to all the sites and see what was happening. She was hoping to possibly shield her daughter from the negativity. Soon, Ana's mother was shocked by what she saw. In several comments on Ana's videos, people were saying things like, "Go die." Another person said that they were going to execute her. There was all kinds of talk about poisonous barbs and weird threats, and Geraldine did not know what to do. Who were these people? It can be pretty confusing because parents usually conclude it must be someone that my child knows because they're not famous, they're not a prominent YouTuber, so how else were these people finding her? But what many people don't understand is that the algorithms on these sites are made for discovery, to find new things and new people. Anyone can find you. Anyone can hurt you, all while hiding behind a screen anonymously. Concerned for her well-being, Ana's parents immediately arranged for a meeting with her new teacher and the principal at her high school. They expressed their concerns that Ana was susceptible to bullying because of her insecurities, her developmental delays, her adoption, and now her online presence. They were armed with screenshots. They showed the principal and the teacher all the comments, but the principal said that that would not help. They could not identify, let alone control something that someone did online. And it only made things worse for Ana because word got around that her parents were concerned about her, and soon her schoolmates found all of her social media profiles. And this led to even more bullying, and now it was online too. But Ana's bullying extended beyond the internet and into the real world in October of 2017. She had been doing some charity work. She was helping out at a costume party for children, and then she was making her way back home walking by herself. She would take long walks all the time, sometimes hours at a time, wearing her favorite blue headphones and listening to music. But this time she comes across 4 young men. They block Ana's path. They wouldn't let her pass them. They were taunting her, and then one of them grabbed her rear end, and he made really, really inappropriate sexual remarks, literally telling her that he was going to have intercourse with her. And remember, Ana looked like a grown woman, but she was still a child on the inside, and she was terrified. She was pushing her way through the crowd of men, running home in tears, devastated. She was banging on her mom's door. She was embarrassed. She was horrified. And it took a long time that night for Ana to finally calm down. This incident upset her so much. And Geraldine and Patrick, they did not take this incident lightly. They go down to file a report against these young men who harassed their daughter. And over in Ireland, they have one national civilian police force, and they're called Garda, which is Guardians of the Peace in Ireland. It has 14,000 staff members, and they provide local and national law enforcement services, and like I said, commonly referred to as Garda. So they told the Garda officers about the man, how he touched Ana inappropriately. And after speaking to the young man who grabbed her behind, Garda simply issued a warning. No charges were filed against him, and Ana's parents were worried. They decided they would drive her to school every day and then walk her to her classes, which is not normal for a teenager her age. This again opens her up to ridicule and bullying. The same month, there was a change in Ana. There were signs. For one, Ana painted a black eye on herself. She used makeup and made it look like she had a black eye from being injured, and she went to school like this pretending that she had been hurt. And this concerned her teacher. It was a cry for attention. Her parents were called in for a meeting, and Geraldine and Patrick met with Ana's principal at the school, and they believed that she was acting out how she was feeling internally. Internally, she was bruised and broken and injured, and she was portraying this artistically, I guess, on the outside. She actually told her parents she felt invisible. And it's sad, because things only get worse for her as the year goes on. She didn't just suffer from poor grades, but she started to get in physical fights with other students. And one of these confrontations led Ana to be suspended from school. During Ana's suspension, Geraldine checked her daughter's social media accounts. She wanted to make sure that everything was okay. And that's when she saw something even more concerning. More concerning than the things that she saw before. She saw something that deeply upset her. Ana's mother discovered that Ana had created a number of social media accounts. They all had different names and different profile pictures, yet they were all connected to her accounts and her email addresses. She owned and controlled these additional accounts. But it gets even more confusing and concerning. When Geraldine did more digging, she realized Ana was using these accounts to comment on her own YouTube videos. Okay, so maybe she wanted increased engagement or something like that. She wanted to grow. Maybe she was trying to game the system a little bit, making herself look more popular. And that would kind of be concerning, but it was much worse. Ana was using these accounts to write hurtful things about her on her own YouTube channel. She was pretending to get bullied. She would even comment on the other bullies' comments and agree with them with these fake accounts. So that shocked her mother. And not only that, Geraldine found a photo on Ana's phone. A photo of Ana blindfolded and tied to a chair. What was going on here? That was beyond concerning. Parents have a tendency to feel like they don't even know what their child is doing when they're not around. Where did this picture come from? How did she get in that situation? Geraldine thought that maybe, just maybe, Ana felt that the only way to bond with her peers was to do as they do and poke fun at herself under these anonymous accounts to fit in. But it was evident from Ana's comments that if she really felt this way, that she didn't think very highly of herself, and that was painful for Geraldine. Geraldine was devastated that her beautiful, kind daughter felt this way. And when she confronted her about that photo, Ana said, "That was just a funny prank I was doing with a friend. That's all that was. It was nothing serious." Geraldine wanted to understand more. And apparently the girls thought it would be interesting to pretend that Ana had been kidnapped and was in trouble. So they sent these photos to a boy that Ana liked to see if he would come rescue her. This sounds like more than a prank, but teenagers, they don't think like adults, right? So maybe it didn't appear to be such a big deal, but coupled with the other things that they knew, Ana's parents were even more concerned. And they had reason to be. And soon it would be too late. Ana had resorted to cutting, and this is a physical way to get out your inner pain. She used a pair of scissors on one of her arms, and Ana's parents, although they were concerned, they kind of convinced themselves that this wasn't that severe, that she wasn't really trying to do anything bad. She was just copying what she saw another kid her age do, imitating him. But enough kind of was enough at this point. They feared that Ana could do something more drastic, and they wanted to get her help. Geraldine, Patrick, and Ana's principal thought that it would be wise to seek outside counseling for Ana, so they reached out to an organization called Kimbyrleigha Youth Services. Their website states that they are a partnership of young people, volunteers, and staff working together to respond to the emerging and changing needs of young people, their families, and communities, including youth counseling. However, when they found out about the cutting, they informed Ana's family that was beyond their expertise, and they referred them somewhere else. They had them go to Pieta House. This is a nonprofit organization that specializes in helping people who have a tendency to cause harm to themselves or have thoughts about it. And they began to do assessments to determine Ana's risk to herself. She began going to these sessions every week, and Patrick would come get her, and she no longer walked by herself because of what happened with those boys and being bullied. All of this was a lot for Geraldine. She truly felt bad for Ana. She even cried because she would watch other girls walking out of Ana's class together, arms interlocked, skipping around, and then she would see Ana. She would just see her with her head down, with her headphones on, just kind of like she said, a ghost to everyone around her. And I feel for Geraldine because that can be really tough because you just want your children to be happy. You so badly want them to be happy. Finally, after 6 sessions at the Pieta house, they determined that Ana was low risk and she could actually go back and get those youth counseling services at the other facility. So she started getting one-on-one counseling every week. And over time, Ana did end up making a few closer friends. She would engage in sleepovers, she would go on outings, watch movies, and talk to friends about her boy crushes. And in no time, autumn had turned into winter and then spring. And soon, Ana's first year of secondary school was almost over. On the afternoon of Sunday, May 13th, 2018, Geraldine was going to sit down with Ana to help her study for an upcoming test. This was something that the mother and daughter did on a frequent basis, especially on the weekends. Even though Geraldine worked very long hours, she always found time to help Ana with her schoolwork. But Ana insisted, "No, don't do it, Mom. You're probably so exhausted. We can do it later." And Geraldine agreed this time because they were planning a family get-together that evening in their house. So instead of studying, the mother and daughter decided, you know what, we're going to relax, turn on a TV, put in a movie, make some popcorn, cuddle up on the couch together. Sometimes you just need that downtime to connect and bond. And after the movie was over, Ana's extended family came to the house for dinner, and all of her favorite cousins were there. Geraldine went out. She ordered some pizza for everyone. However, Ana didn't eat pizza. So Geraldine, being who she was, always trying to make her happy, went out and grabbed Ana some Chinese food. And it was a fun night for the kids. They were running around, they were having fun, and the adults were enjoying some wine and some drinks together. No one in Ana's family knew that that night would be the last night they ever spent with her. There was no warning. That evening, Ana and her cousins actually went on live stream on her YouTube channel. They titled the video Truth or Dare. I looked to try to see if I could find what her YouTube had on it, and in the About section, I read, "I love to sing, dance, swim, family, and friends. If you're a hater, then please leave my account. Stay strong." That's what it said on her About section. It also said that she joined YouTube October 24th, 2016, 2 years prior to this. Her profile picture and her banner were both pictures of the sunset. Some of her previous live streams were titled, "I'm so sorry." Another one was "With my best friends." And another was Tuesday morning. And she liked to do fashion and makeup videos, makeup routines. She liked to sing, dance, like I already said. She was a typical teenager. The party ended that night, and Ana was getting ready for bed around 10:30, which was a little later than usual. And she did have school the next morning. She also asked her mom, "Please wake me up before you go to work." Geraldine actually got up very early. And by that time, Patrick was actually retired. So he didn't generally wake up as early, and neither did Ana, because she liked to sleep in like most teenagers do. But she wanted to say goodbye to her mom and start her day a little earlier than usual. On the morning of Monday, May 14, 2018, Geraldine woke Ana up as she requested, and Ana was tired, as to be expected. Although she had so much fun with her family the night before, it tired her out. But she did remember to remind her mom that she needed a note for school. She needed one of those passes that said, "I'm leaving early," because that afternoon she had a counseling appointment. Geraldine writes the note. She gives her a kiss goodbye. She had to catch a train to Dublin for a meeting. And Ana finished getting ready after that, put on her school uniform, ate breakfast, packed a few things, and then left. Originally, Ana was supposed to eat lunch with her peers at school, as usual, then walk to her counseling session before making her way back home. But instead, she left school and then she goes straight home, not eating at school, eating by herself. After that, she goes to her counseling session and then she walked back home, changed out of her school uniform, ate a snack, and then tried to call her mom. But Geraldine was in the middle of that meeting and she couldn't answer. This was around 4:02 p.m. So she texts Ana back and said, hey, I will call you as soon as I can. Patrick was outside. He was in the backyard. He was getting some sun. He was relaxing. It was around 4:55 p.m. when he hears the doorbell ring. So he goes to see who it was. He sees a young man around Ana's age waiting outside. So he opens the door and the boy asks for Ana. Patrick summons her to the door and Ana is taken by surprise. She was not expecting anyone, especially a boy. But they didn't exactly hang out. However, she seemed excited. Patrick watched as Ana stood in the doorway. She was kind of like whispering to the boy. Typical teenage behavior. Then, as the young man waited, Ana excitedly ran up the stairs. She shouted to her dad that she was going to go out for a little bit. She grabbed her favorite black hoodie. She actually begged and begged her mom to buy this for her from China. It was black, and then it had white lettering down the sleeves. Before Ana left, Patrick wanted to remind her, you have studying to do. But Ana seemed to kind of brush it off. She was excited to be playing with a friend. And she told Patrick, well, I don't really know about that, and I won't be gone long anyway. Ana ran out the door. It was only a matter of seconds before Patrick realized, wait a minute, I don't know where she's going. So he ran outside as fast as he could, and he catches a glimpse of Ana walking in the direction of a popular hangout, St. Catherine's Park. The boy is walking in front of her. He's wearing a little small backpack, and Ana is following behind. That's the last thing he saw. Patrick wasn't worried. It wasn't typical for Ana to hang out with boys, but she was happy when she left. She was smiling when she was saying goodbye. Patrick wasn't worried, like I said. And the park was close by. It was frequented by many children Ana's age. And when I say close by, for me, I don't feel like it is. I really don't. But generally speaking, when I looked into it, this was a place in close proximity to the school that they went to. I'll kind of show you all of this on a map like I always do. It's one of my favorite things to show you every detail. But let me explain what St. Catherine's Park is like. There's lots to do there. It's a 200-acre park full of woodlands, beautiful grassy areas. Many people walk their dogs there. There's a dog park, a running trail around the river. They hold farmers markets events there. There's playgrounds, picnic areas. It's a great location for people of all kinds to hang out. However, it is a 20-minute walk. That's why I said I don't really feel like it's that close. But let me set this stage for you. This is Ana's neighborhood. A very nice, cute place, cute houses, sidewalks, residential. They would come out of this neighborhood and then turn left at the church. Then they would continue walking down Captain's Hill on the sidewalk until they made their way to Main Street. Now here's more of a town square area. I even saw this sign there that said, St. Patrick's Day Parade, Main Street, all welcome. I just happened to catch that and I thought it was interesting. There's a bank on the left, shops, restaurants, things like that. And then they would continue down Main Street until it turns into Mill Lane. Seems complicated already, but then you take a left at Cypress Springs and they'd only have to stay on this little road for a minute. You can see a fire station on the right-hand side on this corner and see this. It's the entrance to the street you take to St. Catherine's. It's quite a long walk. Once you're on this small road, it's called the Black Ave, you can see it winds around up to the park, but they still would have a ways to go. And there's no sidewalks on this road. It's quite small, kind of scary looking actually. There's even a sign that warns pedestrians about oncoming traffic. On some portions of the road, I did see a narrow sidewalk, but then they'd end. So they'd be here and there, and then sometimes there wouldn't be anything but grass or hardly a shoulder on the road. Finally, you get to the end of this road, which was one of the entrances to the park. There's a sign that says the park closes at 6 p.m. That's when the gates would close on you and you wouldn't be able to drive in or out. Around 5:10 p.m., Geraldine is finally free from her meeting and she made her way to the train station. She had just ended a phone call with a friend, so she was ready to call Ana back, but no one answered. And she would be home soon, so she figured, I'll see Ana when I get there, and she didn't bother to leave a message. When she arrives, however, she doesn't find Ana inside the house. However, she locates Patrick outside and she inquires about Ana's whereabouts. He informs her that she left with a boy. Geraldine is pretty surprised by that. Ana was always desperately trying to make friends all the time. So she thought it was very unusual for someone to come by and ask for her daughter, but not only that, especially a boy. And she definitely wants to know more, but Patrick doesn't have any other details other than the fact that Ana said she wouldn't be too long. Well, by 5:30, Geraldine wants Ana home. It made sense. If Ana was at the park, it would be closing soon, so she should be on her way back. So she texts Ana 2 words, home now. Ana is someone that always has her phone on her. It's almost like glued to her hand, constantly texting back within minutes, maybe even seconds. Geraldine doesn't get a response, and that worried her. Okay, Ana's only been gone a half hour. She's playing with a friend, so maybe it would take her a little longer to respond. But this is a first for everything. For the boy, the fact that her daughter isn't answering, isn't texting back or calling right away. She tells Patrick that she's actually concerned. Now, this next text that she sends might sound a little drastic, considering Ana didn't do anything wrong per se, but Geraldine was paranoid about her daughter, who had been bullied over the years, had ailments, impairments that made life harder for her, and had actually been harassed by boys just a month prior. She texts Ana with this: answer me now or I'm calling the police. She wasn't really going to call the police. She just told Ana that because she wanted her to understand how serious it was for her to get in touch with their parents and fast. Still no response. Geraldine decides to actually retrace Ana's steps. She's thinking, maybe I'll see her on her way back. So she walks all the way to St. Catharines. She does see families in the park, kids, people walking their dogs, but she doesn't see Ana. With no luck, she goes back home. She eats some food with her husband, and she gets in her car after that and decides to go to different parts of the town looking for her daughter. This is very out of character for Ana. She was in constant contact with her, constantly texting, always telling her where she was. Recall how much Ana was used to walking? Well, she would literally walk for hours, a couple hours at a time. So Geraldine thought she could be anywhere by now, anywhere. Geraldine returns home again, and her and Patrick, they go on Facebook. They're looking for connections, school connections, friends, parents, someone, a family of this boy. They were not sure who he was. So they were hoping that they would get in touch with someone who did, but they didn't have any luck with that either. And it's getting late. And these parents are worried. They don't know what to do. However, they have a friend that lives nearby that's a retired detective. His name is John Kriégel. So they drive over because they're desperate for advice. And John tells them, go to Garda. Report your daughter missing. She had been gone for over 4 hours. It's 9 p.m. at this point, and she's a minor. So they frantically make their way over to Leixlip Garda station, explaining that their 14-year-old daughter is not responding to their texts, their calls, and she's not that way. Even if she was mad, she would text back with something like, I'm mad, I'm not talking to you. But at the very least, she would let you know that she's okay. So this was not normal. Thing is, and you've heard this before, Garda gets a number of these calls. Children that haven't made it home on time, and they usually return within a few hours. But they do still gather all the information from Ana's parents and find out that Ana's passports are in the house. And the last time she was seen was by her father, who saw her leave with a young boy around 5 p.m. Their first order of business is to locate the boy. He was the last known person to be seen with Ana. Patrick explains what the boy looked like, and he adds something. He says when they were walking, it was more like Ana was following him. They weren't like side by side talking. And Geraldine makes it clear that she's even more worried. She said no one calls for Ana. She explained Ana didn't have a lot of friends, especially a boyfriend. She was a loner. It didn't take long for Garda to find out who the young boy was that came to Ana's house. Garda Connor Muldoon was able to obtain an address for the boy. He pays him a visit that evening. And it was definitely surprising for the boy and his family to see Garda at their door. His parents asked, what is going on? And the officer explained Ana had not come home that night, and their son was seen with her at 5 p.m. at Ana's house. Now, because we are dealing with minors in this story, the law in Ireland is strict in regard to minors and their identity being provided and revealed when it comes to anything legal in nature. And therefore, they're going to refer to him as Boy B. And we will do the same. Boy B, who is only 13, tells Garda he was the one who came to the door to ask for Ana to hang out. That they did go to the park, but around 5:40, they made their separate ways back home. And Boy B told Garda that he thought Ana left and she would be back at her house by now. That's terrifying. Garda officially opens a missing persons case for Ana Kriegel, and they begin to look for CCTV footage around the neighborhood and the park. Geraldine and Patrick give Garda pictures of Ana, including one of her wearing that unique black hoodie with the white letters going down the sleeves, the one that she was wearing when she left the house. Her parents must have been out of their minds with worry. The very next day, they're walking the neighborhood with a bunch of their friends, their family. It has been overnight now. They're asking everyone, have you seen Ana? Luckily, Garda is actually able to locate footage from the area, and around 5:01 p.m., Ana can be seen on camera walking behind Boy B toward St. Catherine's Park. And then at 5:14, footage shows Ana and Boy B at the BMX track. And they seem to be leaving the park because they're near a different entrance or exit area. But then only 15 minutes later is when Ana's mom texts her home now with no reply. So what happened after the BMX track? Where did the pair go? Did they go back home? Seems like he did, but where was Ana? Boy B said it was closer to 5:40 when they left, but this was being captured at 5:14. So where did they go as they're seemingly headed towards one of the exits? Garda was able to locate a witness who said they saw who they thought to be Ana and Boy B at the BMX track, and they were having fun. They were skipping and walking and talking and just hanging out. They were walking south from the BMX track on Black Ave, and you can kind of see the top of the BMX track right here over these hedges. This is where they would have come out from, and they would have gone towards the Black Ave and continued south. There is a closer exit out of the park at the end of the Black Ave here. Garda thinks they need to go back and speak with Boy B. They want more information about exactly where he saw Ana go after they left the park, because at 5:49 p.m., a camera near the BMX track picks up Boy B again, all by himself, walking towards the ranger hut. Now, if you look on this map, that's north, not south. So why did they leave, but only Boy B return and go back through the park? This time, Sergeant John Doon, he goes to Boy B's home, and he wants to ask him if he has any more information. And luckily, Boy B does have more information. He explains that there was another friend with them that they met up with later on. He's also a minor, so we can't use his real name. We're going to refer to him as Boy A. He's also 13, like Boy B. So what they want to know is, why was Boy B walking out of the park with Ana? To understand that part, we have to go back to before he even came to the door that evening. It's a familiar story. Ana has a crush on Boy A. Boy B is Boy A's best friend. Boy A wanted to meet up with Ana, but he didn't want to go talk to her himself, so he sends his buddy Boy B to go to her house. Boy B explains that he went and picked up Ana, they go to the park, they meet up with Boy A, and then afterward, Boy B goes home. So the story changed a little bit, right? But we are dealing with children. So Sergeant Doon takes Boy B to the park and wants to know exact locations, like where did you enter, where did you meet up with Boy A, and where did you both leave after that before heading back home? Boy B shows him all of the locations, and the sergeant takes notes. Now they have enough information to go public with Ana's description. They need the public's help. By Tuesday evening on the 15th, they began putting up missing persons posters, as well as articles online and all over local TV media. It described Ana as 14 years old, 5'8" in height, with black shoulder-length hair, sallow skin, and a small build. Last seen wearing a black hoodie with white writing on the sleeves, black bottoms, and black running shoes. Now it's back to the CCTV footage. They're looking for the other boy this time. Boy B said they met up with someone else, the one that Ana had a crush on, and it doesn't take them long to spot him. At 4:57 p.m. in the Courtyard Lane area of St. Catherine's Park, they see a boy wearing a backpack entering the park area. This information is crucial because they only have 2 witnesses, these boys. The next time they see Boy A on camera is at 6:03 at the same location he came in. And at that point, he seemed to be leaving the park. So he was there about an hour. Now they make plans to speak with Boy A to gather more information about what he saw. Meanwhile, in the next couple days, there are a lot of tips coming in. People are calling in tips saying that they saw Ana at all kinds of different places, that she was 25 minutes away from the St. Catherine's Park. Someone else said they saw her at the airport, boarding a flight, Dublin Airport. But then they get a pretty promising lead. It's from a mother, and she says that she knows Ana from her daughter. And her daughter said that she saw Ana on May 15th in the morning on their street in their neighborhood with a boy who didn't attend school that day. So could Ana had been hiding out somewhere with this young boy? Teenagers do all kinds of unpredictable things. So Garda goes up to this house. They end up doing a search of this other boy's house, this unnamed boy. And it turns out there's no connection with Ana's disappearance. So I want to take you back to Sergeant Dune because he's the one that was with Boy B at the park. And while they're searching, they decide to go to the railway as well as the entire park, every inch, and it's huge. Recall he was about to make his way to Boy A's house. Well, while Dune's walking through the park, a man stops him. He's with another young boy and he says, "Listen, I heard about Ana's disappearance. You should check the local sewage treatment area because my son hangs out there with kids that age." That's good information. That's an area of the park. It's actually on the Black Ave. You pass it when you're coming to the park entrance. And it looks like a dangerous place. There's lots of signs that say do not enter, but you know how teenagers are sometimes. They like a thrill. Look, there's even a sign here that says no trespassing. But you can actually walk through St. Catherine's Park on Google Maps, and you know I did. I walked the entire thing. And while I was going towards the water treatment area, I saw this bridge. There's a lot of places you can get lost in here. There's streams, rivers, swampy looking grass areas. Anything could happen without many people seeing it. I also found an area like this where the path ends and there's just a bunch of graffiti covered walls and places to hide. It's off the beaten path. Kind of a scary place if the sun goes down. And by the afternoon of the 15th, Sergeant Dune makes contact with the family of Boy A. And at this point, there's a surprising revelation. The man and the boy who Sergeant Dune passed in the park, the one who told him, "Oh, you should check out the water treatment plant," that was in fact Boy A and his father. He informs them of the details that are known about little Ana's disappearance and instructs Boy A and B to go back with him to the park again, with Boy A's father following them. Now this time, Boy B is going in a slightly different direction past the BMX track. Both boys are leading Sergeant Dune and Boy A's dad, right? So Sergeant Dune sees the boys kind of look at each other, exchange a little bit of a glance, which to him indicated that they were kind of disputing which way to go next. And because of this, Sergeant Dune makes a decision to stop the search. He wants to bring both of them back to the station with their parents, of course, to do a formal interview in separate rooms, more like an interrogation. This would put pressure on them to tell the truth. They're young, they're scared, they're confused, and all the officers want to know is when they saw Ana last. They aren't in trouble, but it's imperative to understand what happened. What happened after the boys left Ana alone? At the Garda station, Boy B was consistent in what he already informed them about. He didn't know what happened to Ana. He wasn't even aware that anything was wrong until Garda showed up at his door. What gets interesting is what happens when they interview Boy A. He explained that Boy B was his best friend. He walked to Boy A's house after school, but Boy A was busy with chores, so he told him, "Hey, let's go meet at the park later." Boy A says when he got there, he was surprised to see that Boy A brought Ana. He told Garda that he did know her, but not that well. Then he said, quote, "At one stage, Ana said to me, 'I have something to ask you. I was wondering if you wanted to go out with me,' end quote." Boy A said he was surprised that it came out of nowhere. He said, "I kind of knew she liked me because she kind of asked me out before." And then he explains to Garda that he was caught off guard. He didn't want to be mean, but he wasn't interested in having a girlfriend. So he said to Ana, quote, "I'm sorry, but I'm not interested." And she didn't answer. He said that she said nothing and she walked off and she looked annoyed and sad at the same time. Boy A explained that Boy B walked off as well. And Boy A said at this time he made his way out of the park alone on his way home. And that's when something happened. Two strange men confronted him. They were following him. And one of them grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him to the ground. And then both men began to kick him. And that's scary. The Garda wanted to know, who were these people? What were they wearing? Why were they doing this? How did you get them to stop? And he told them that finally he was able to get away from them. And while they were like down there kicking him and hurting him, he was able to kick one of them in the head. And both of the men ran off. So he shows Garda his injuries. He had some marks on his arm, his leg, cut on his face. And this was important because these men could be responsible for abducting Ana. They needed a full description. So they brought Boy A to their headquarters out in Dublin. and they did a composite sketch. They created a profile of these men who attacked boy A. At this point, the search takes a turn. They now believe Ana could have been harmed or even killed, perhaps by these men. And perhaps these men saw the boys were with Ana and they wanted to keep them from talking. So they also collect all the boys' clothing, shoes, backpacks, etc. And Garda calls even more teams in. Inspector Mark O'Neill of the Lucan Garda station was now the lead detective, and they brought in special teams. They had a dive team to search all of those bodies of water, including River Lafitte, as well as the civil defense team, which is kind of equivalent to emergency rescue services here in the United States. 60 members were brought in to help, as well as Garda Crime and Security Branch. They looked over all the cell phone data, and they tried to find out Ana's GPS locations. On May 16th, 2 days after Ana had gone missing, the search was in full force. Ana's disappearance had become a major news story throughout Ireland, and that photo of her in a hoodie, that became synonymous with her case. That was the picture spread around to help identify Ana and to alert anyone who may have seen her to call the authorities. Well, a tip comes in. The next evening on May 16th, a witness says they saw a boy climbing into a field on the Lucan side of St. Catherine's Park at 5:08 p.m. on May 14th. And as they put it, he was making a beeline for an area called the Glenwood House. Now recall the CCTV footage of Ana and boy B talking and walking at 5:14? Well, they were walking in the same direction, out of the park to a road that leads to Glenwood House. So what's Glenwood House, and why would teenagers, if they were going there, why would they be going there? Let me show you. This is the BMX track, and here's the field right near Glenwood House. St. Catherine's actually has several entrances, and one of them is close to this place. After passing the ranger hut and a parking lot, you can take a path through the woods and come out in the neighborhood in front of Glenwood House. At the time in 2018, the Glenwood House was a dilapidated country manor. It used to be a 2-story mansion. It was situated on 105 acres of farmland, and it was built back in the 1800s. This home was once considered an elegant, luxurious estate, but that was then. Now, it was the perfect place for teens to run amok, as they say. Paint the walls with graffiti, make out with each other, kind of like a lover's lane, but it has been destroyed over the years. A section of the roof collapsed. There had been a number of fires set by delinquents. There was debris, trash, needles, bottles. Just the premises was just nasty. And it draws in teens and other vagrants from all over the area. Many residents from this community wanted it to be torn down years ago, but it's a protected structure. A company purchased it for £10 million back in the early 2000s, and they wanted to make it into a nursing home, but they had planning issues. So that plan never went through, and in January of the same year, 2018, there was finally an advisement panel that went out and told the developer to go ahead and finally do full repairs on the property, but nothing had been done yet. For years, it just sat there open to teens like Ana and these boys to hang out in. There were many complaints over the years. Politician Ted Leddy, he wrote in saying it needed to be secured, that it is a place that criminals turn up and terrible deeds are committed. So is this what happened to Ana? The Garda fears the worst. Just look at this place. It's dangerous. It's not a place for children. It's littered with trash, all kinds of things, probably drugs. It's just bad. The next day on Wednesday, May 17th, Garda plans to do a full search of that estate, starting with the structure and then moving into the field around it. Sergeant Declan Birchall and a special search team, they gather at the area outside of St. Catherine's towards Glenwood. Garda was very familiar with this area. They've had many calls throughout the years, and they begin an extensive search of ditches, brush, foresty areas, inch by inch. Step by step, they're making their way to those structures. Right here in the park, you can see a wall. You climb over this and you can run across a field to get to the back side of the Glenwood house. That's the path they were taking because this is where a witness saw boy A running. Here's the path across the field and into the backyard of the Glenwood house. There are some outbuildings here, so a couple searchers, they go in there, while Garda Sean White went into the main structure. He came through the back porch area right here and inside. The structure was very dark. Not a lot of light is able to come through in certain sections. Many of the windows and doors were boarded up, as you can see here, but there were holes in the ceiling and other areas that would let some light shine through. Garda White made his way to the front of the house, where he walked down a long corridor, and on the left, if you're going from the entrance, is one of the first rooms. He entered this room. It was all the way to the right if you're looking at the house straight on. Now, I don't think this is a picture of the exact room and what it looked like inside, but it was most likely very similar. White scanned the room. It was full of debris, and something stood out to him. A figure lying on the ground. His mind couldn't comprehend what it was, and then he figured it out. It's a mannequin, or so he thought. The problem is, he could smell the scent of blood, a distinctive and sweet putrid smell. And as his eyes adjusted, he finally realized he was looking at something way worse. It was a body. And he yelled out to this person, and they didn't respond. So White did what he was supposed to do. By protocol, he went outside, and he shouted one word to his team: "Find." And they knew in that moment what it meant. It meant he found something. It meant he probably found a body. Birchall ran over there to where White was, and when he got closer to the figure, he confirmed what White had seen. It was indeed a human body, a female's body. She wasn't clothed. She was only wearing a pair of black socks. And without doing anything more, they already knew that this must be Ana. As he scanned the room, Birchall saw articles of clothing thrown all around. Things that looked as though they belonged to Ana. He also saw pieces of a broken iPhone, which were scattered everywhere. As both the investigators' eyes adjusted, they saw just how much blood covered this entire room. There was a cement block and a large stick covered in it. The walls, part of a carpeted floor, all stained. Upon closer inspection, it was obvious where it came from. There were a number of wounds on her body, and a long piece of insulation tape was wrapped around her neck. When Birchall looked even closer, he spotted something so heartbreaking. There were 3 of Ana's fingers that were up underneath this piece of tape around her neck, as though she was trying to pull it away from her. This is beyond sad. I couldn't even hold my composure reading it and seeing the things I saw. She clearly fought for her life. And now she was laying there on top of used condoms and broken beer bottles, just lifeless. Well, the officers began putting up the crime scene tape, and they called in the medical examiner. Ana Kriegel had been preliminarily identified by the pictures Garda was provided by her family, as well as her clothing. How did this happen to this poor, innocent young girl? How? Who would do such a thing? Why was Ana there? Where did the young boys go? Did they see her be taken? There were so many questions, but the first and the hardest thing they had to do now was tell Ana's parents. They had to be notified that she was found. And no parents ever prepared to hear such heartbreaking news, and the Kriegels were no different. It changed their lives forever. They have never gotten over Ana's murder, ever. Garda gave them the news during lunch that day. They told them they needed to come down to the morgue to formally identify her body. These poor parents. They waited so long for a child, and they loved Ana so much, and she loved and adored them. And it's so unfair. Sometimes I cry. My heart hurts for people like this. And also for Ana, who they did ultimately identify. It was her body inside this run-down derelict farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere. And now the investigation intensified even more. This isn't just a missing girl. This is a murder. Over 20 investigators from Garda were assigned to this case under Inspector O'Neill. The scene was now secured, and it was filled with forensic technicians and experts for the next couple weeks. And they examined everything. I was very impressed by everything they did. The state pathologist, Professor Marie Cassidy, was assigned to examine Ana's remains, and I will get to the autopsy report, But at this point in the investigation, the media is becoming aware of what has occurred. And it is a total and complete shock to this small community. The school Ana attends is so close to St. Catherine's. So many children walk in that town without a care. And yes, there have been things that happen at Glenwood, but nothing like this, not to a teenager like Ana. By the next day, Friday, May 18th, the Irish Times published an article entitled "Murder Inquiry as 14-year-old Girl Was Beaten to Death and Left in a Derelict Building." Priest says tight-knit community in shock following Anastasia Kriegel's death. I read this article, and at the time, the investigators were focusing on what happened after the two young boys left Ana and went home. Ana was described in this article as a first-year student at Convey College and was very popular in her peer group. It went on to say that Ana recently ran a Snapchat video log of a school sporting event and that Garda was heavily looking into all of her social media accounts. Geraldine and Patrick requested privacy. They wanted to try their very best to shield their younger son Aaron from the news. And the media was asking anyone who knew anything or saw anything to come forward. Garda even set up roadblocks. They were stopping cars. They were asking questions to locals, trying to link any clues to this horrific crime. Here in this picture are forensic personnel going through the window of the room where Ana was found, scouring the entire place looking for evidence. Ana was laid to rest on May 18th, 2018, and hundreds of people attended her funeral. And as her remains were transported to the crematorium by the police, the song "A Whole New World" played in the background because Ana loved Disney. She loved bright colors. She brought brightness and color to everyone's lives. So Geraldine and Patrick encouraged all of her guests to wear sparkles and glitter and pink and green, anything fun that reminded them of Ana. And a bus full of Ana's classmates attended the service, as did all of her dance class friends as well. All of them wore red and white armbands in honor of Ana. Geraldine spoke at Ana's funeral about how even though her beautiful young daughter was taken from them so soon, her love for her will never fade away. And in Ana's casket, her parents, this made me cry, placed a miniature Eiffel Tower because Ana loved France. It's where her father was born. And additionally, they draped a Russian flag over her coffin. The final item that Geraldine and Patrice placed in Ana's coffin was a Russian nesting doll, similar to the one that they used to announce Ana's adoption. It was really hard for me to do this case. And it's going to be really hard for me to go over this autopsy report. But it only took a day before the autopsy report was in. And honestly, it's probably the worst one I've ever read. Everything combined in this case is just devastating. Ana sustained more than 50 injuries. She had bruises and cuts all over her entire body. And they were more significant on her face, her head, and her neck. Cause of death: blunt force trauma to her head and compression of the neck. Ultimately, it was determined that the ligature did not cause any trauma. It was just kind of draped around. It was most likely pressure from someone's hands. The next thing I have to talk about, I can't exactly say the way that I would, but there was evidence that injury had occurred down below in the southern regions. I'm not trying to be immature here. Out of respect for the age of Ana, I'm sure you understand what I mean by what I'm saying. I'm not going to go into detail. But Dr. Cassidy was not sure what caused this injury down there, whether it was an object or was forced intercourse. However, DNA in the form of seminal fluid was found on one of Ana's tops at the crime scene. And this made Dr. Cassidy question the motive. She believed it could be sexual in nature. Ana's legs, thighs, and torso were covered in bruises. The doctor wasn't positive if Ana was alive or conscious at the time that the injury down there occurred or when this act was performed. However, her report was able to paint quite a complete picture of what she believed transpired that day on May 14th. And she believed it happened shortly after she was last seen. And yes, it's believed that Ana actually died the day she went missing, sometime between 5:25 and 5:40. That would have been only 10 minutes after her and boy B were seen skipping and laughing and walking and talking through St. Catherine's Park. Putting together the autopsy and what forensic teams found in that room, it was believed that she was ambushed. As soon as she entered that room, she was struck with a large, heavy stick with nails protruding from both sides. And then she was hit at least 4 times with a broken concrete cinder block. It had matted hair and blood and Ana's DNA on it. This was all determined by looking at spatter, because it was in high areas above. This indicated that Ana was initially standing when she was hit. There were what they call percussive staining on the stick, and this happens when an object is flying through the air at high speed and it impacts someone. These are streaks in blood that appear on walls, and it's coming from the object flying at a fast pace. So they're kind of like tiny streaks, thin ones, so you can tell the velocity and the speed. There was evidence that the assailant dragged Ana to a window, probably because they wanted to get some light to see what they were doing, which is where it's believed the incident, the forceful act, whether intercourse or an object, happened. Because this is also where there was pooling. The pooling stains were left behind in this corner of the room as she lay there. It was apparent from her glue-on nails being strewn all over the room that Ana clawed and punched and fought. They collected blood evidence for DNA analysis and fingerprints from all over the scene, which was still being processed. Wow. This is unbelievably sad. Poor Ana. What could she have done? What could have happened to cause her to be in this vulnerable situation? Well, the Garda doubled down on the teen boys. They were the last people seen with her. And once the Kriégels knew the extent of what Ana went through, they couldn't speak. The community and Ana's classmates and friends were speaking, though. They talked about Snapchat, about Ana looking like a model. One friend told the Irish Times, quote, "She was the type of child who would be sending her parents text messages telling them that she was walking to the bus stop, then another to confirm she was on the bus, and others with updates where the bus was now." That's the level of vigilance and interaction we are talking about. Another friend recalled Ana being quirky and offbeat, and that she had a love for animals, with dogs being her favorite type of pet. Ana was terribly missed, especially by her family and her close friends at her dance troupe. And on March 22nd, a National Women's Council called for a review of femicides. And when I read this, I saw that they were talking about 4 women, who had died in Ireland violently that year. And I had to think about all the women I research about and talk about on this channel, many of them killed for their bodies to be used. And I do wonder when it will stop. The Women's Council wanted the government to ask why Irish men were committing these acts on women. And the director, Miss Orla O'Connor, was quoted saying, quote, "These young women were going about usual everyday things. There's nothing they could have done to prevent what happened," end quote. She also said, "We need to ask what's going wrong in our society that these horrific crimes are happening. And I want to understand this too." And that answer may not come very soon, but what was coming was an arrest in Ana's case. By May 23rd, Garda had made public that they were going to be close to making an arrest due to a DNA match. Garda had been at Ana's school the past few days asking students a lot of questions. And after getting all of the information reviewed and the DNA evidence, they were able to link and to exonerate individuals from this murder. Shockwaves rocked the community the next day when the arrest was made. 2 arrests, actually. On May 24th, Garda announced the arrest of the 2 13-year-old boys who were last seen with Ana on the day of her murder. Yes, that is right. It turned out that the story boy A had told, that he was beaten up by 2 men, it didn't seem to make sense to the authorities. Not only that, inside boy A's backpack was a zombie mask, black gloves, shin guards, and knee pads. And when I say a zombie mask, this was a homemade mask, like a ski mask. It was skin colored. It had eye holes cut into it so that someone could see out. And then the jaw area had been cut out and sharp fangs were drawn on the upper part, and it was painted red. It was terrifying. They called this a murder kit. And after looking back at that CCTV footage and the timelines, they ascertained that boy A was wearing this exact backpack at 4:57 p.m., making his way straight to Glenwood House. At 5:08, remember the witness actually saw him running towards that field where the house is. The DNA in the form of the seminal fluid also belonged to boy A. There was no doubt in the investigators' minds. He was at that house. And he was at that house when Ana was killed. However, as far as boy B, Garda was not sure what role he played in the crime, but both of the boys' parents were notified on May 23rd that they would be arrested the next day and that their homes were going to be searched. So they asked the parents to quietly bring the boys down to the station. They wanted this to be discreet, with boy A going to Clondalkin Garda Station in West Dublin and boy B going to Finglas Station 5 miles away. In Ireland, I mentioned there are strict laws regarding minors. The Children Act of 2001 is the cornerstone of the juvenile justice system in Ireland. It provides several protections for juvenile offenders, including staying anonymous. And they expunge their records once certain conditions are met in the future. People argue that communities and the public deserve to know who these juvenile offenders are, so they can be cautious. Because even if they are adults, they still did this. So although I understand them trying to protect them whenever they grow up, they feel like naming children will deter criminal behavior and to hold them accountable for their actions, and I have to agree. However, the Act states that staying anonymous is of the highest importance for young offenders, no matter how heinous the crime. Their reasoning is that it was still a child who committed the crime. Many with multiple health issues, including mental health issues, which cause them to become early offenders. Often these children come from very chaotic backgrounds. Sometimes they're victims as well of neglect and violence. So in this case, Garda did not want to show up at these young boys' homes in Garda vehicles. They wanted to go in unmarked cars, and that's what they did. And they carried out their search not in the normal way. They didn't use evidence bags. They didn't want to alert the neighbors whose house they were at, because that would expose boy A and boy B's identity. Once arrested, more questions were going to be asked to the boys. They wanted to know what their involvement was. Garda also wanted to understand each of these boys' natures. They started with questions that were very easy to answer, and they did this while the boys' parents were present. There were questions like, do you understand right from wrong? And actually, boy A was very intelligent for his age. His interests, he told Garda, were human anatomy, the human body, and the inner life, the skeleton. He said he liked drawing anatomical drawings. And the detectives asked if he liked drawing people that were alive, and he said no, more evolutionary. So what does that mean exactly? Well, the evolution from life to death, apparently. When they confronted this boy about Anna's blood being on his boots, he literally said, quote, "Are you joking me? You can't be serious." And then he said he wasn't feeling well and that he may throw up. So they go ahead and give him a glass of water. But they were not going to go easy on him. They asked him, were you in that room when Ana was killed? To which he responded, no. The thing is, there was no way that blood spatter that were on his boots could have gotten there unless he was close to Ana when those injuries were being carried out. This wasn't blood that could have gotten there from boy A simply walking through the crime scene. Anna's blood was also found inside and on the outside of that zombie mask that was in boy A's backpack, as well as on the knee pads, the gloves, and the backpack itself. And unfortunately, when boy A came home that evening, on the evening of the crime, his mom didn't know what happened. She believed his story that he had been beaten up by 2 men. So she admitted to Garda that there was blood on her son's clothing that night, but she ended up innocently washing it. She didn't know that this was evidence of a murder. And there's more. Boy A handed over his cell phone to the authorities. And well, when investigators were looking through it, they found some pretty disturbing photos and screenshots and search history. The investigators found many things on this phone that could also be written off as innocuous. Just innocent things that a teen would do, innocent things they would look at. He might have just been a curious boy who enjoyed the strange and the unusual. But despite that, many screenshots and boy A's internet history were valuable to investigators. Boy A when I'm talking about screenshots and history. I'm going to get into a lot of these. One was YouTube videos. His search history included YouTube videos such as the 15 most gruesome torture methods in history. Another one was horror films that will blow everything away. Other disturbing searches included Until Dawn, Take Jessica's Clothes Off. Now this last one I was really interested in. This is actually a PlayStation video game that Boy A used to play. It's called Until Dawn, and it features a character called Jessica Riley. Well, in this game, Jessica can remove her clothing depending on her relationship level with one of the male characters in the game. She can undress to her white shirt, her jeans, or her underwear. And clearly Boy A was interested in getting her undressed. The searches that stood out the most to Garda were abandoned places in Lucan County near St. Catharines Park and Greenwood House. Wow, I wonder why he searched that. But wait until you hear what they found next. Boy A had 2 more devices hidden in his room. These phones contained over 12,500 images of what you may ask, very explicit and violent acts against women. Investigators were able to find very, very inappropriate underaged individuals doing you know what? These were the 4-letter P word searches, underage, if you know what I mean. That word was actually searched on 2 separate devices. There was also pictures of a man wearing a mask while he was dominating young women in school uniforms. Oh my God, this boy is literally 13. What is going on? Others were pictures of women that were bound and gagged. He even searched Sweet Russian Teen. He started searching that from November 2017, and he searched it up until the murder. He was looking for images and videos of these indecent things, and I'm stunned. It's his age that's so shocking to me. A grown man, okay, but what in the world are we, because I'm a parent too, what are we opening up our children to online? Because these things are at our children's fingertips. Of course, Garda confronted Boy A about the searches, and he said that all of that stuff came up because he was merely searching for a horror film online. He wasn't interested in any of that other stuff, according to him, and maybe not at first. I think that could be true. Curious minds, they may not be able to resist the urge to look. And being such a young and impressionable boy, his mind may have become distorted as a result of this stimuli. Even with all of the evidence presented to Boy A, he denied having anything to do with Anna's murder. Now I want to take you to Finglas Station with Boy B in his interview. He had been interviewed a total of 5 times prior to this arrest. And with the last one, he admitted he heard Anna scream. He had been giving them bits and pieces. He was gradually telling them things. They had to pull it out of him. However, one thing was, none of his DNA was linked to the crime scene, and none of Anna's was found on any of his belongings anywhere in his house or elsewhere. While being interrogated by Garda, Boy B admitted he watched Anna enter the Glenwood house and go into the room with Boy A. He said Boy A was his best friend and initially told Boy B that he was interested in meeting up with Anna because she had a crush on him. It turns out that was all a plan to get Anna alone. But Boy B said he had no idea what the intentions were of Boy A, and he thought that maybe they were going to kiss or something. But once Boy A and Anna went into that room, Boy A told Boy B to leave. But Boy B didn't leave. He decided to explore this historic home. He said that he was looking around, and then he heard a shuffling noise and screaming, which made him turn back and run back to that room, and that's when he saw Boy A flip Anna in the air. And then he described it being some kind of judo-type move. While Anna is on the ground, Boy A gets on top of her and begins to, well, everything you already know. Items were being ripped off of her, and the whole time she's screaming, and she's saying no. She's saying, don't do this. That poor girl. I can't even begin to imagine her fear. And it only got worse. Boy A put his hands around her neck. And all of a sudden, he must have heard a noise because Boy A and Anna both turn and they look at Boy B. And he's staring at them in the doorway. He said that Boy A had a blank stare on his face, and it made Boy B scared, so he ran away. Once they get all this information, they go back to Boy A and they tell him, and he says, Boy B is lying. That is all. It didn't matter. The evidence they had on Boy A was enough to charge him with Anna's murder. And the very next day, May 25th at 4:01 p.m., 10 days after Anna's murder, he was officially charged. An hour later, he was transported with his parents to the Children's Court in Dublin. And this is for his first court appearance. What would his parents be thinking right now? Because I'd be in utter shock and disbelief. And I truly wonder if there were any signs. Boy A's parents did say that on the evening of the murder, he looked shocked and he was scared when he got home. But again, they were both under the impression that he was the victim of these two men. Boy A was the youngest person charged with murder in the history of the state. Any cases that are brought to children's court that have to do with forceful intercourse or murder, they get transferred to Central Criminal Court, where juveniles are actually tried as adults. So after the first hearing with the judge, they sent Boy A to Operston Town Detention Campus, which is located in Lusk, Dublin. It wasn't until July 8th that Boy B was arrested once again in connection to the case. He had been released at the time that Boy A was charged, but now he was back in that Garda station being questioned again. This time, they want to know about the mask. And Boy B talked about it being a really cool mask that Boy A made last Halloween. Boy B did admit that he saw Boy A wearing it when he went after Anna. But it was what Boy B admitted talking about with Boy A month prior that was the most damning. The exchange went like this. Boy A asked him, hey, you want to kill someone? Boy B said no. Boy A said, why not? Boy B was like, because it's retarded, his words. Boy A was like, oh, come on. Boy B said, who are you planning on killing? Boy B said, Ana Kriegel. And Boy B said, in your dreams. That is seriously so sick. And Garda asked Boy B, why do you tell on your friend? He said, oh, well, I just thought he was messing around because, he always was saying things like that. Boy B said he had no idea what his friend was going to do on May 14th. But the real question Garda wants answered is, you were there. You saw Boy A hurting Anna, so why didn't you run for help? Boy B said he was scared. He said he wasn't sure what to do and that his brain was just frozen in place. The next day, he tried to pretend it didn't happen, and that's why he lied to Garda, because he thought Boy A would blame everything on him. After all, he was the one that went and got Anna from her home. And what I found sad was that Garda blatantly says to him, you could have saved her. And he said, I know. And they said, why didn't you save her? And he said, I don't know. I can't help but think, are we not teaching our kids to say something if they see something, if they see odd behavior? And okay, I know it can be scary, but Boy B said that Boy A always said odd things. So why not come forward before this? Those are definitely signs. It's not a joke to say you're going to kill someone. There's nothing funny about it at all. And I think as parents, maybe we do need to be more clear. After I read all of this, I did sit down with my daughter and I told her, if you witness something, if it's just out of the ordinary, but especially if someone talks about harming someone, no matter whether you think it's a joke or not, you've got to say something. You just never know. The detectives don't go easy on Boy B, not at all. They call him a liar. And essentially, they use what he just mentioned against him. They said, you had heard Boy A talk about murder, specifically murdering this girl by name, Ana Kriegel. Then you actually do as he says a month later. You fetch him the exact girl and you deliver her to her fate, putting her in the hands of a person that said they wanted to kill her under the guise that her crush wants to hang out with her. It's pure evil. Boy B is released at this time until Garda could speak with the prosecutor. Armed with everything they had at this point, they decide to rearrest Boy B on July 12th, and they charge him with Anna's murder as a co-accuser. But get this. Both of these boys get out on bail just a month later while they're awaiting their trial. And I don't agree with it at all. As a matter of fact, there was public outrage because of this. Yes, of course, they were to be supervised by court officials and had to abide by rules, but the public was outraged. Not only that they could spend the summer with their families, but also because their identities were being hidden. Many people, including myself, truly believe if you do the crime as heinous as this one, you live with the consequences. Like a scarlet letter, you should have to wear your crime, be public, deal with what comes with it. But as I stated, the law is strict in Ireland. They believe in giving young people a second chance to possibly be rehabilitated and get a chance to live a normal life without the sins of their youth following them into adulthood. But I don't know if I can get on board with it. Here's a picture of a lady giving 2 middle fingers to a vehicle that's transporting boy A and boy B to their court hearing. The judge actually had to warn the public that if anyone tried sharing the identity of either one of these boys, they would face charges, specifically on social media. The boys' names, their home, school, pictures, anything like that, anything with identifying factors should not be published to the public, or you would face prosecution. What are your thoughts on this? I would really like to know because I have many, but meanwhile, both sides, the prosecution and the defense attorneys, were doing their due diligence. They were looking into these boys' backgrounds. But unlike the typical offenders of this nature, the boys were good. They were both from very good homes. They had no history of violence. They both did well in school. They didn't suffer from any known medical health or mental health issues. And that really shocked the community. It was like, can my kid do something like that? Or is my child around someone who could? Prosecutors argued that there was no way boy B wasn't complicit. He was the one who brought her to this dirty, abandoned farmhouse so far away from everything, knowing that this boy, boy A, his best friend, didn't like Ana. Information had come out from boy B himself that boy A told him he planned on telling Ana that he wasn't interested in dating her. So why then would you say you thought boy A was going to maybe just kiss Ana? The prosecution actually believed that boy A was lying in wait for boy B to deliver Ana right to him, armed with a stick, ready to render her unable to move. Mr. Justice Paul McDermott was assigned to preside over this case, with criminal barrister Brendan Grehan prosecuting for the state. The attorneys for the boys attempted to do the whole we're not going to try them together thing, where they would have 2 separate trials so that their statements and the evidence wouldn't be able to be used against one another, but the judge denied that request. He explained, quote, "It would be a distortion of the factual background if the entire factual matrix of what happened in the lead up to the death of Ana Kriegel was not set out in full to the jury." The trial was set for April 30th, 2019, and the judge would permit the children's parents to sit next to them during the trial, but it would not be open to the public. A very small number of seasoned, vetted journalists from reputable news stations were allowed in court. A lot more was uncovered in preparation for this trial, and of course during the trial itself. For one, boy B was seen by a child psychologist, and he was ultimately diagnosed with PTSD from what he witnessed. This was something his attorneys planned to use as a defense. They wanted to say that this was the reason he lied in almost every single interview. But what was even more unsettling was that boy B told his doctor that he actually saw boy A standing over Ana with his pants undone. And he also admitted seeing Ana gasping and then going silent and lifeless. This information was very damning because it showed just how long boy B watched, possibly until Ana was already dead. And he continued to lie even up until the time he was charged. A jury of 8 men and 4 women were selected. When the trial began, even at the first appearances of boy A and boy B, there was another family there too, Ana's. Both Geraldine and Patrick never missed 1 minute of their daughter's trial. As hard as it was for them to hear all these terrible things that had been done to her, they wouldn't leave even for a second. Even when they were thirsty, they had a victim support representative go get them a drink because they didn't want to miss a thing. The prosecution's case began with the claim that boy A and boy B had planned the attack on Ana. They said boy A waited in Glenwood House with his murder kit backpack, and poor innocent Ana, she had a crush on boy A, and that was used as bait to get her to that house. Then boy A attacked and murdered Ana once she was inside. The jurors were not allowed to view any pictures of Ana alive, which I thought was very interesting. Please, if you work in the legal field in Ireland, let me know why this is. I don't know if it's a bias issue. To me, it was like they only got to see evidence of the crime and not humanize the victim so much. I didn't know if maybe it was her age. That confused me. However, Ana's parents were able to paint a very accurate picture with their words. They were among the first to take the stand, and they told jurors everything I already shared with you and more. It took Dr. Cassidy 40 minutes, she was the medical examiner, to describe all of Ana's injuries. All the while, Geraldine took copious notes. The entire time she was holding on to her husband's hand. What I found interesting was both boys were excused from the courtroom during the doctor's testimony. And you know why? It was because of the graphic nature of the evidence. Excuse me? What? They caused it. At least boy A did. Why then should they be shielded from seeing what they did? And I'm curious to read all of your comments because I know if you're anything like me, you're going to have thoughts and opinions about this for sure. On day 15 of the trial, boy B had a little panic attack and he was taken away by ambulance. I just kept thinking, was this just the boy who picked the wrong crowd, the wrong friend, or was there more to it? His panic attack happened when the jury was looking at a video of one of his interrogations. This is the one where he admitted he was lying to Garda. This trial lasted 7 weeks. That's long. Most of the time, boy A was seen with his head on his father's shoulder, and boy B held on to his mommy's hand. Wow. I wondered if that was a ploy to make them seem more innocent, but the reason the trial was so long was actually because of something that happened earlier on. Around the same time that boy B had the panic attack, the defense attorney told the court that someone in the courtroom had been staring at boy B's family and they were distressed about it. Really? Well, because of that, the court decided to end around 2 p.m. instead of the usual 4:15 every day. And this was to make sure the defendant's family felt more comfortable. You know who can't stare at anyone anymore? Ana. She can't look into her parents' eyes and say she loves them ever again. Both boy A and boy B's parents took the stand, and they laid out what it was like in the days leading up to the murder. They didn't try to use this time to talk about how innocent their sons were, but boy B's father did say that his son was not capable of a crime like this. There were 7 children that testified, and that's very uncommon. But these are the individuals that knew most about what life was like for Ana, the people she hung out with, her schoolmates, and even kids who knew the defendants. They all spoke through video via a camera that was set up in another room so that they didn't have to go through the stress of being in the courtroom. Technology was big in this case. All the social media posts, the CCTV footage, the GPS coordinates, phones, texts, internet searches, it was all presented. And instead of showing the CCTV clips one by one, they cleverly kind of put them together side by side in time order so you could see what boy A was doing at the same time that the other camera was catching boy B and Ana. And this helped the jury with the timeline. And instead of doing an in-person viewing of the home, the jurors were able to look at a 3D model, which I found really interesting. And I found a video on YouTube that showed it. And then what they did is they kind of like superimposed what it would look like, where the murder weapons were, where Ana's clothes were, spatter, etc. It was almost like being there. And I really think that virtual and augmented reality is going to become more of a thing going forward in trials, because it can really give the jury a better idea of exactly what it was like to be at the crime scene. I said I was so honestly impressed by Ireland's legal system and this trial. For being so complex, it was extremely organized and it ran very smoothly. Defense counsel Patrick Gageby for boy A and Damien Colgan for boy B decided not to ask any witnesses any questions. There was no cross-examinations. They waited until everything was laid out in the case to offer their arguments. The defense counsel for boy A stated that he came from a stable and loving home. He had no previous criminal record or even mental illness. Even so, the defense admitted that there was a lot of evidence against their client, and they did not deny that boy A killed Ana. Instead, they claimed that he and Ana got into a fight after she told him she liked him. Okay. He explained that although boy A tried to turn Ana down nicely, there was an argument, and it ended up becoming physical. But that boy A never intended to kill Ana, that he did not plan Ana's murder, but rather he just snapped during this really emotional moment. But during his trial, boy A displayed no emotion. And while in custody, a psychiatrist examined boy A, and they concluded that he did not have a mental illness. I know this is part of his job, but boy A's attorney, he asked Geraldine if Ana was sexually active, to which she replied with a resounding no. And this was actually confirmed by medical evidence. This attorney was trying to make some kind of point by offering evidence of the fact that maybe she was already active. But why even go there? Why in this kind of case? Boy A also maintained that he never had intercourse with Ana. He had another explanation about how his semen got on her shirt, but those details have never been revealed. A lot of witnesses that the defense questioned were Garda officers, and they probed them on why they didn't have a specialist interviewing the boys, or why didn't you give them breaks. And this was an attempt to say that the information that they obtained was done in an inappropriate manner. But no, they followed all protocols. They even had their parents there, so nice try. Boy B's attorney said that he was smart and he always scored higher than average on his exams, but he was bullied into carrying out this heinous plan with boy A. They claimed that when boy B called for Ana on that May afternoon in 2008, he thought boy A was just interested in talking to Ana and had been joking when he said he was going to kill her. So he had no idea that he was leading her to her death. According to boy B's defense attorneys, he lied to police following Ana's murder due to experiencing his PTSD. I think the reason boy B had a panic attack is because of what the prosecutors used as rebuttal evidence. Boy B's interrogations were used against him to prove he was a liar. But more than that, from boy B's interviews, it was clear that he didn't like Ana, and this is really sad. Boy B said Ana was weird. She was an outcast. He said she dressed slutty and that nobody liked her. Ana's parents sat there in the courtroom and had to listen to boy B saying these terrible things about their precious daughter. I may never get to see this kid's face, but I can tell you right now it's the type that I like to punch when he becomes an adult, of course. There were questions about whose idea it was for Ana to meet up with them. Who decided to have boy B go get her? Who decided to meet at the farmhouse? Who brought what was at the Glenwood house, especially the tape? And how did Ana's clothing get removed? And who smashed her phone when it started to ring? The defense really tried to get a lot of evidence withheld. Anything that made their clients look bad. For boy A, it was all about trying to exclude as much of that forensic evidence as possible. For example, the key evidence to the stained boots, the defense said, those were taken under false pretenses. You were trying to figure out who beat up boy A. They said the same thing about the phone, that they were taken inappropriately. But the Garda agents didn't even know that Ana was dead at the time. So these arguments failed. However, there was a lot that this jury never got to see. And I want to tell you about some of those things because I find them to be very interesting. One was a mannequin dressed in the clothes that boy A was wearing the day he killed Ana. The judge decided it was way too prejudicial. There was a notebook that boy A was drawing in. He drew a figure with a skull and the words, "Just kill them," and "Just effing do it." That was also not allowed to be admitted. There was a questionnaire that boy A filled out in one of his classes, and the prosecution really wanted to show this to the jury. They thought that the answers were very telling. Let me read it to you, because I think the answers are interesting too. The questionnaire said, "Where are some of the places you like to hang out?" Answer, abandoned places. Favorite books, horror. Favorite sports, combat. Favorite movies, horror and comedy. Favorite music, rap and heavy metal. Single or taken? Single. I would describe myself as, he said, crazy, funny, adventurous. I am, he said, strange. When it said I think, he said differently. I feel, not much. I hope to do well in life. I feel angry when someone tries to annoy me or hits me. I love steak and drawing, and I hate homework. The defense argued that a lot of teens would answer those questions the exact same way, and ultimately the judge ruled that only one question and answer were to be allowed, and that was the one about where he liked to hang out, abandoned places. Whether to let in the vast amount of indecent images found on boy A's phone, those almost 13,000 images, was what the defense and the prosecution argued about the most. The prosecution didn't even want all of those photos. They wanted 10 that they thought depicted the type of acts and the nature of the acts carried out on Ana. There was even a video showing another Russian girl named Anastasia, and the defense argued it was way too prejudicial. I do have a law degree, so I understand criminal procedure, but I still think that sometimes if it's relevant, it should come in. It's too bad. It's too bad. I don't care if it's unfair. Your client shouldn't have been doing it, but that's not how the rules work. And in this case, the judge determined it was not admissible. It was prejudicial because there was also 6 months between when those things were searched and looked at and the murder. What else was left out, you may ask? Well, a video of Boy B that was on Boy A's phone. It was showing Boy B hitting a stone block with a reinforced stick, and Boy A was saying, "Holy, seeing the damage that it did. Also, Boy B's internet history. It contained searches for various types of knives and for a YouTube video titled "My Girlfriend Tortured, Stabbed, and Starved Me." He also had a notebook that had some very interesting satanic cult information written down. These were rules, according to Boy B, rules of the satanic cult, as well as members' names, which included the name of Boy A. Some of the rules were only pledge hosts can give pledges. Don't talk about it. Act normally like nothing happened. No talking about Jesus or God, only Satan. Boy B said this was actually a homework assignment, but Garda thought otherwise. May 14th was a special day for Satan worshippers. It's called Doomsday. And they confronted Boy B about this. It's on the satanic calendar. But Boy B insisted he had no idea. And ultimately, it was confirmed that this was a homework assignment. They had a homework assignment about cults. And Boy B's work was associated with this evidence, so it was not admitted. Even without getting in a lot of the more prejudicial and damning evidence, the prosecution still had a lot on Boy A. The CCTV footage of him at the park, his DNA on Anna's shirt, and her blood on his things, as well as his shoes. What the jury was left with was the prosecution's story of what they thought happened. It really reminded me of what happened to 13-year-old Tristan Bailey by Aiden Fucci, who was 14 at the time. This happened in Jacksonville, Florida. He too had mentioned to his friends that he wanted to know what it felt like to kill someone, but no one came forward. And then he did it. He killed poor Tristan by luring her into the woods under the pretense that he liked her. So back to this case, the jury was repeatedly reminded in reference to Boy B that it was not a crime to merely be at the scene. And failing to stop a murder isn't a crime either, according to this court. On June 12, 2019, the jury began deliberations, and 5 days later, they announced their verdicts. In the case of Boy A, he was found guilty of murder and aggravated forced intercourse. The jury found Boy B guilty of murder, despite the lack of physical evidence linking him to the crime, and rightfully so. Boy B, they believed, was responsible for Anna's murder, since she would have never gone to Glenwood House if it wasn't for him, and the lie that he told her to get her to go with him. Anna was happy. She had a big smile on her face the last time she saw her father. She really believed that Boy A liked her and wanted to date her, not that he wanted to kill her. The sentences for Boy A and Boy B were handed down on July 15, 2019. For the first count of murder, Boy A received a life sentence. However, after 12 years, a review panel will look at his file, and they can either shorten his sentence or extend it, since he was a minor when the crime occurred. He was also sentenced to 12 years for aggravated forced intercourse. It goes by another name, which I can't say, which the judge ordered to be served concurrently with his life sentence. If and when Boy A is released from prison, he must be registered as an offender. Boy B was sentenced to 15 years in prison, and a panel will review his file in 8 years, and they can decide to lessen his sentence as well. Even after the boys both turn 18, neither one of their identities will ever be revealed, which I think is uncool, but who am I? Anna's life and brutal death were displayed to the world, while Boy A and Boy B have protection at all costs the entire trial. Well, someone else thought it was uncool that the boys' identities weren't known to the public, and out of anger, after Boy A and B were sentenced, Hazel Fitzpatrick, a 25-year-old mom of 2, revealed the boys' identity online. Because Anna was not protected, she felt it was unfair that the boys were. And according to an article in the Irish Mirror, Hazel posted a screenshot on Facebook of a photo that identified the boys on the day that they were convicted of this murder. And the post said, quote, "Name and shame the C words. Justice was served, but they should not be allowed to see daylight again. Sickos." And she said that everyone should see who did it. Well, I feel your pain, Hazel. However, she faced a trial over this. Even though she deleted the post within minutes, she was still charged with violating Ireland's Children Act of 2001. Hazel's trial was in 2021, and her lawyer said that at the time, Hazel was almost like addicted to social media, and she did it out of a burst of anger. There was no premeditation, and when she posted the photo of boy A on Facebook, she even stated it was the biggest mistake that she ever made in her life. But she pleaded guilty, and the judge described Hazel's actions as having utter contempt for the law and handed down a 12-month sentence. But then it was reduced to 8 months on the condition that she was able to keep the peace for that period. There were a lot of people who got in trouble for revealing these boys' identities, and I wanted to go into a few. You don't have to know this if you don't want to, but I thought it was very interesting, and I still have a few more things to say. There was a journalist that was fined about 3,000 pounds for accidentally naming the boy during one of the live radio broadcasts. The court was also told that there was another boy who wasn't even involved in the murder, and he was wrongly identified online as one of the killers. I thought this was really cool. Both Facebook and Twitter apparently have face matching technology, and they have the actual photos of boy A and boy B, and within seconds, they can detect a post that has their images in it, and it will be removed immediately within minutes. And this has been done over the years. By 2020, at least 10 people were accused of illegally posting pictures or names of boy A and boy B. There were 6 men and 4 women prosecuted, including a mother of 3 that was 48 years old, a 22-year-old who posted on Twitter. All kinds of people decided that it was unfair to keep these 2 young men's identities hidden. But one of the most publicized posts came from Rebecca Ryan. She was 25, and she tweeted the 2 minors along with the caption, "Here's boy A and boy B, the 2 murdering bastards." All of the people were fined or imprisoned as a result of identifying boy A and or boy B. As far as the house is concerned, Glenwood House, it has since been completely sealed up with cement and cinder blocks. People can no longer get inside, but there have been many that have tried, and a lot of people visit it as a murder house, like a house of horrors, like a tourist attraction. However, it is not being demolished, and apparently the owner said that due to its notoriety, it will no longer be able to be a nursing home as planned. Here's what it currently looks like on Google Maps as of March 2022. So what do you think? This case was very interesting because it was my first Irish case, number 1. I'll definitely do a lot more international cases coming soon, but this is also just a very interesting case because of all of the modern issues that were involved. Social media, bullying on and offline, technology, phones, texting, young children getting involved in what I would say are adult crimes. The identities being hidden, it's just a very dynamic and interesting case. But one thing I want to point out is this happened to a real person. It's interesting, but this is real. And it was a very hard one for me to research, but I thank you all. I'm sorry I have to do a voiceover in this section to thank you all for watching. The footage was destroyed at the end of my video, not to mention all of my candles went out while filming this video. It has never happened before. If you go back and rewind the video, they go off one by one, and mind you, they're battery operated candles, and none of the batteries were actually dead when I checked. It has never happened, but I guess there's a first time for everything. So thank you so very much for watching. I will see you in my next video.